Beauty and harmony beyond reality. A 2-gram psilocybin and 600 microgram LSD trip report, posted to Reddit by Super Reese P. Soog. August 7th, 2022. My awakening. The time is 7 PM. I had just gotten back home from a quick day at work. I recently had picked up a total of 10 tabs of LSD gel tabs, each 150 micrograms. My next idea probably wasn't the smartest one at the time, but I thought that I would have enough time between the start and the finish of the trip to feel somewhat normal the next day. I then picked up 3 of the gel tabs, a total of 450 micrograms of lysergic acid diethylamide, and placed them under my tongue. Not thinking that this would be enough to satisfy my strangely high tolerance, I pick up 2 grams of dried golden teacher shrooms and eat them as well. Here we go. About 10 minutes later, I hop into a Discord call with my boyfriend and everything feels fine. About 45 minutes in, I start to feel slight shakiness and notice the slightest of visual distortions around my peripheral vision. At this time, I then get the great idea of placing yet another 150 microgram tab under my tongue. I let it sit there for about 5 minutes before swallowing the remnants of the half-dissolved square of gelatin on my tongue. Fast forward another 25 to 30 minutes, and I'm finally starting to feel more of the effects. My body temperature slowly starts to rise, so I decided to just take my shirt off to cool down. The visual distortions slowly start to get more dramatic, and they slowly take over the rest of my vision. I can still function respectably fine at this point, so I don't think too much of it. Another 45 minutes or so pass, and I get this unnerving sense of nausea, as if I was incredibly drunk. My jaw starts to get heavier and heavier, and my ability to speak slowly becomes less coherent and stable, yet still mostly understandable. Around 2 hours after I had placed the original 3 tabs under my tongue, I decided to launch Steam VR and hop on VRChat. At this point, standing up became nearly impossible, as if the muscles in my legs had atrophied. Slowly but surely, I get into VRChat, and knowing it's only going to get crazier very quickly, I spontaneously get the great idea to find the trippiest and most colourful world I could find. My original plans were to stay in this world for just a few minutes and look around, but the rapidly flashing colours and unrealistically psychedelic nature of this world fascinated me. Around 5 or so minutes into this world, which felt like an hour at the time, one of my friends joins it. Speaking at this point in time became increasingly difficult in just a short amount of time, but I managed to force out a few words in a jumbled yet still coherent sentence. I start to begin giggling at the slightest of things, completely in awe of what is happening all around me. This is when I started to lose most of my physical world senses. My body became incredibly light but also heavy at the same time, as if I were trying to move my body whilst underwater. I don't think too much of this at the time, as most of my physical senses had transferred over to what I was seeing through the headset. My VR full body tracking, as well as the face and eye tracking that I have, made the experience impossibly immersive, as if I were actually feeling the world in my headset. My outside reality slowly became more and more distorted and unrecognisable. I had this feeling that I would get stuck in this world, and with more and more people joining the world that I was in, I quickly became incredibly overwhelmed. The mystical rainbow, fractal trees that I was looking at prior instantly became less saturated, and the floor around me, which was I think purple, became this blurry mess of red and black swirls, moving like clouds but with a slight jitter and shake to them. Overstimulated, I panic and open Spotify with my VR overlay application, quickly switching over to a lo-fi playlist that I had saved. The very instant that the song started, the world bloomed with colour again. Relaxed again, but not wanting to experience that horrifying shift in my reality, or what was left of it, again, I decided to go to a much more calming world, a world with a dim sunset, modern house, waterfall, a beach, and a seemingly endless body of water. I checked my virtual watch on my wrist, 10:05 PM. This had only been going on for 3 hours at this point, but the time dilation that I was experiencing made this seem like days. At this point in time, I find that being in VR is too much for me, and somehow I take my headset off. It was like I was seeing time in slow motion. I could perceive time at what seemed like 50% speed. I then grab a glass of unsweetened green tea, take a few sips, and then lay back down in my bed. I closed my eyes, and this is where I absolutely peaked. As soon as my eyelids closed, I got sucked into the air like a puff of smoke. Desperate, I tried to cling on back to my physical body, but I then speed upwards at unfathomable speeds. Before I knew it, I was in a place that I had never seen before, but it felt eerily similar for some reason. I don't believe myself to be religious, other than for the idea that there is a life after life. What I saw, I could only presume it to be what heaven would actually be like. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Impossible geometry and colours beyond perceivable colours. It was so fascinating, yet the way they all seemed to fall in place with absolute perfection was astonishing. I could not even begin to describe what I saw, other than it being beauty in its absolute purest form. I spent what felt like days walking around this mystical yet vaguely familiar place. Upon further inspection, I realised that it is an infinite garden of some sort. The flowers and foliage surrounding the area were unimaginably vibrant. I felt this inner peace with myself and all of my surroundings that I'd never felt before. I look up, and the sky is this absolutely stunning baby blue. I see the clouds above, so elegant and blissful as they gently float across the sky, and my body explodes with love and pure joy. Before I get to fully embrace the feeling, the clouds above start to morph. As soon as I see what they had morphed into, I get sucked into one of them for a tower of light. The clouds were not clouds, but temples. As soon as I had realised what the clouds had become, I found myself standing in front of one of these mystifying temples. The two mahogany doors, which seemed to be at least 100 feet tall, opened on their own, and I decided to walk in, or rather, fly my way in, as if I was swimming through air. When I got inside, I was greeted with nothing but this massive interdimensional library. Curious, I flew over to one of the books, which had to be at least 10 feet tall. Before I could get any closer, the book opens up, and what I had experienced I physically cannot put into words. I travelled through all of space and time at what seemed like a near infinite speed through dimensions and other forms of realities. I get the most vivid visions of my former life as a child. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. As I was flying through impossible realities, I got to see all of the beauty in the universe. Every atom, meticulously in place, perfectly in harmony with one another, and it was the most beautiful thing one could never imagine. After flying through dimensions for what seemed like days on end, I slowly see something out of the corner of my eye. This bright white orb slowly getting closer and closer. Before I knew it, I was back on Earth, or back to whatever remained of my physical consciousness. Realising that I just saw the answer to everything in existence, I break down crying, although no tears ran down my face. I could only put my head around the fact that I had just visited heaven, as that was the only thing that made even the slightest fraction of sense at the time. Now, I truly do believe that there is a life after life, existence after our non-existence, as non-existence itself does not exist. Everything exists, and it is impossible for existence itself to not exist. After our physical body may die, we, as our consciousness, do not die. We only move on. We are one together, and everything that exists for a reason. Every atom in our universe was meticulously put into place and it is beautiful. There is so much more to this universe than one could ever begin to comprehend without being the universe itself. There is unfathomable amounts of beauty in this life that we have, on this planet that we share, and this universe that we reside in. We are all there is, and all there ever will be. Our consciousness will always exist. It just may be in another form. After the hallucinations started to wear off, I decided that I was somewhat functional enough to get back into VR. I found yet another trippy world with immense fractals and rapidly changing colours, and it was beautiful. The peace in the chaos. How everything in this virtual world was meant to be. It was all beautiful. After staying in the world for another 2 or so hours, and as the drugs started to wear off, I decided the best thing I could do at the time was just go to sleep in complete awe of what I had just experienced. I ended up falling asleep around 5:30 AM, 10.5 hours after I ingested the tabs and shrooms. After this trip, I had uncovered a new layer of self-appreciation, as well as a new appreciation for the world around me. My anxiety and overall mood has been the best it has been in years. I truly believe there is more to these substances than one might think. I truly believe that there is more beauty to our world and more meaning behind our consciousness. There are endless possibilities to discover, endless amounts of beauty to experience. It's just how you choose to find it. I hope that everyone reading this does find their true inner peace, as it's a beautiful thing. Thank you for taking the time to read my life-changing experience. I love you all so much. Soogy.